In the quiet stillness of old age, when the world assumes your story is over, God often begins the most powerful chapter. You may feel forgotten, dismissed, or irrelevant, but the truth is that your anointing is more dangerous now than ever. That's because it's seasoned by battles, pain, faith, and resilience. When you walk into a room, you don't need to announce your presence. Your spirit speaks. There's a fire in you that age cannot extinguish. The years have only made it burn brighter. You have walked through storms others only read about, and yet here you stand, chosen and set apart. That's the first sign. You become a silent warrior whose authority cannot be ignored. The older you grow, the more the heavens trust you with revelation, because your soul has matured to carry it. People may look at your wrinkled hands and see weakness, but heaven sees them as the hands that held on when everyone else let go. You are dangerously anointed when your scars no longer define your pain. They define your power. The experiences that broke others have built you. That's why you speak with weight, and when you pray, the earth listens. It's a sign of divine trust. God has reserved your voice for a time when the world would desperately need ancient wisdom wrapped in modern urgency. And now the time has come. You didn't survive all those years to stay silent. You are the echo of Elijah, the strength of Moses, the endurance of Sarah. Your wisdom is not from books, it's from fire. When your presence makes demons uncomfortable, even when you haven't said a word, you're walking in a dangerous anointing. It's not about charisma. It's about consecration. You've been through too much to entertain foolishness, and that's what makes you unshakable. Younger people may have speed, but you carry spiritual authority. Heaven knows it. Hell fears it. You've learned to listen before you speak, to observe before you judge, and to pray before you react. This discipline is not weakness. It's lethal strength, and as you age, your restraint becomes a weapon. You walk with a calm that shakes the unseen world. That's another sign. You don't panic because you know who walks with you. You are no longer trying to prove yourself to people. That season is over. Now, your only audience is God. That shift is divine. When you lose the desire to perform and instead crave presence, you've entered the realm of dangerous anointing. The approval of men fades, but the favor of God becomes your covering. You realize that rejection was divine redirection, betrayal was heavenly protection, and every delay was part of your preparation. You begin to thank God for what didn't happen as much as what did. That is spiritual maturity. That is power. That is authority purchased with tears and tested by time. When people seek your advice not because of your title, but because of your spirit, it's a mark of God's favor. You become a magnet for the hungry, the broken, and the desperate, not because you have all the answers, but because you carry peace. In a world full of noise, you are a signal. You are dangerously anointed when your silence says more than others' speeches. You don't need to preach to be prophetic. Your life becomes the sermon. You've become the elder whose gaze reads souls, whose touch comforts wounds, whose words reshape destinies. Heaven recognizes this level of spiritual maturity. Your prayers no longer beg. They declare. You don't ask God to move mountains. You command them to shift, knowing who stands behind your words. This kind of faith doesn't come from youth. It comes from walking decades with God in both valleys and victories. The longer you live, the deeper your roots grow. and the more unmovable your spirit becomes. That's why the enemy fears the elderly who still pray. You are dangerous not because of your age, but because of your history with God. You've seen too much to doubt. You've been through too much to break. And now your faith has become a fortress. You've stopped chasing platforms and started building altars. That's another sign you're dangerously anointed in old age. You understand the power of private worship. You know that God's greatest works often happen in secret. You've learned to hide in the cleft of the rock, to wait on God when others rush ahead. Your life is no longer about visibility, it's about impact. You may not have a spotlight, but heaven shines on you. What you do in the prayer room changes what others do in the public square. That's the authority you carry now. Quiet, unshakable, heaven-backed authority. You start recognizing spiritual patterns faster. Where others see coincidence, you see divine timing. Where others complain, you intercede. That's the gift of spiritual sight, honed over years of walking closely with the Spirit. You are dangerously anointed when you no longer react, but respond with heaven's wisdom. People come to you because you carry prophetic perception. Your words don't just encourage, they activate. That's the kind of influence age and anointing produce when they collide. You are no longer just a voice in the crowd, you've become a spiritual landmark. You've lost the fear of man completely. You don't flinch at opposition, criticism, or spiritual warfare. You've been through too much to care about applause or accusation. That's when God uses you most, because fear no longer controls you. When an elder speaks without fear, demons scatter. You don't need validation. You carry revelation. You're not trying to impress. You're trying to obey. That's the mark of a servant who has been forged in the wilderness and raised in the fire. Your age does not limit you, it empowers you, because now your only agenda is heaven's agenda. You find joy in simplicity. You don't crave chaos, you cherish peace. That's a sign that you are aligned with divine purpose. The more you've walked with God, the less you need to feel fulfilled. Your contentment becomes contagious. People feel safe around you, not because you speak much, but because you carry stability. That's the fruit of walking with God for decades. You have peace in your presence, clarity in your counsel, and strength in your silence. The world doesn't understand it, but heaven celebrates it. You no longer fear death, because you've lived through so many spiritual deaths already. You've let go of dreams, endured loss, buried hopes, and yet here you are, more alive than ever. That's what makes you dangerous. You've already died to your ego. You've buried your pride. You've sacrificed comfort. And now, nothing holds you back from obedience. You've become a vessel ready for anything, because nothing owns you but God. When someone reaches that level of surrender in old age, they become unstoppable. That's the kind of elder the world desperately needs. You start mentoring without even trying. Younger people watch you, imitate you, learn from you just by being near you. That's what happens when you carry weight in the Spirit. You are a walking testimony. Every wrinkle has a story. Every step carries history. You don't need to shout. You embody wisdom. That's the legacy of a dangerously anointed elder. You speak with such depth that your silence carries more conviction than most sermons. You've become an atmosphere, shifter, a legacy, maker, and a threat to darkness. You've stopped wasting words. You speak only when it's needed, and when you do, it pierces the soul. You've become like Jesus, sometimes answering questions with silence, sometimes turning the conversation upside down with a single sentence. That's because your words have been refined through trial, seasoned by pain, and sanctified by time. You are not reckless with revelation. You carry the secrets of heaven, and you know when to speak and when to remain quiet. That level of spiritual maturity comes with age, and it's dangerously powerful. You see the enemy's tactics from miles away. You're not surprised by betrayal, deception, or delay. You've seen it all before, and now you guard others. You protect the innocent. You intercede with power because you've seen the battlefield and lived to tell the story. Your intercession is strategic. Your authority is not loud. It's lethal. You're not the one in front shouting anymore. You're the one behind the scenes shifting atmospheres. That's dangerous. That's holy. That's divine.